So Jay, thank you so much for joining us on Sports Talk by Sports Paddock. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Sunaina. Appreciate being here.
Yes. So just to give a short introduction about yourself before we dive into our questions, you are definitely no stranger to the world of sports, and you have worked in various organizations as well. One being Adidas Group in Delhi, where you worked as a marketing manager and you were in charge of managing and executing various plans. And you were also successful in launching the golf apparel brand in India in 25 selected outlets. After which you were also the CEO of Touche Golf in Bangalore, where you helped develop golf through key verticals like coaching, merchandises, and events. A very interesting sport to choose, especially in India. So we'll dive in about that a little more. After which you started your own company, which is Gameday Arts in Bangalore, where you focused on grassroots sports in India by developing individual sports technical abilities using proven methodologies, global methodologies. And you built various partnerships as well with successful brands like Michael Phelps Swimming, Rangers, FC Bayern Munich, just to name a few. And the company was acquired by Cult Fit in 2019, where they now run swimming programs and have got a very successful response as well, where you hit a target of 7,000 people coming and registering, both adults and kids, in the past 4 years. So that's quite a target to hit.
Thanks, Sunaina. That's
this is just a small gist of what you've done.
It's been a fun journey so far, and but plenty more that can be done in the world of sport.
I'm sure. But starting off with, can you tell me a little bit about your baby, the Gameday Arts? Like, how did it start?
Gameday Arts. So I was kind of keen to always do something in the world of sport, and spent a few years in Adidas, and was kind of keen to impact. I've been passionate about sport my entire life. It's something that it's been a huge part of who I am. I love playing. I play most sports terribly, but I've always enjoyed playing. And
was it golf by any chance?
I play golf. Yeah, golf's my favorite, but I play tennis, football, whatever, badminton, everything poorly. So, you know, I really, for me, one of the fundamental things was, everybody said, India doesn't produce athletes, so there's a billion people and there's no athletes being produced. And to me, one of the areas that was always kind of neglected was the area of coaching, especially at younger ages, grassroots levels. And you constantly hear coaches who are, teaching, let's say, under 19s or under 21s, saying, the kids that we get don't have the right technique, don't have the right ability. But the best coaches were not coaching 6-year-olds, 9-year-olds, 12-year-olds, 15-year-olds. They wanted to coach 21-year-olds and then complained that the 21-year-olds had no talent. So for me, there was a bit of an opportunity to bring in really strong coaching for kids at a much younger age, because you can't teach technique at an old age. You can teach technique when kids are young, but like in football, you can learn tactics at an older age, but you can't learn how to use your weaker foot when you're 18. It's something that needs to be drilled in when you're 7, 8, 9 years old. And I also felt that, at the time when I was starting out, I felt there was a lot of infrastructure available to use outside of school hours that wasn't being utilized. So I wanted to kind of use the available infrastructure for sport and teach it to kids at a really, really young age, rather than them relying on their, physical education instructors in school. So that was kind of the germ of the idea that I had back in 2014. And there were quite a few people doing it, but I just wanted to kind of do it a little more professionally, and I thought there was an opportunity to do that.
No, that's very impressive. And there's something interesting that I found in your bio. You said that you use proven global methodologies in Gameday Arts programs. Can you elaborate on these methodologies?
Yeah, so I think the idea was simple, was we lag behind in terms of producing athletes to a lot of other countries in the world. So instead of trying to reinvent the wheel and figure out from scratch what we needed
Mm-hmm.
to do, the
Mm-hmm.
idea was, why don't we go ahead and get coaching programs that we know have worked and have worked at a fundamental base level in other places. Let's train our coaches in India on those programs and let's kickstart from there. Rather than trying to figure out from scratch what's going to work, how is it going to work, let's accelerate that process by taking programs that are currently being run in the US or in Europe
So that's
and
why
bring
Michael
those programs.
Phelps and Rangers and Bayern Munich FC. Okay.
Exactly. So the idea was, let's use what their coaching techniques and tactics that they're using today, but let's train Indian coaches on implementing and executing those techniques for kids. So we got young Indian coaches who were like willing to learn, willing to understand, got them trained up, got them to
Wow.
understand what people were doing, and then had them implement it and work with kids. We also had foreign coaches come in from time to time and work with kids in India as well. But in fact, I always felt that our Indian coaches connected better with the students over here, because simple stuff where they could understand the accent and
Language and
things like
accent.
that. Yeah.
Absolutely.
But we had some really nice foreign coaches who wanted to experience Indian culture and had a great time over here. But we had a good blend. But the idea was, how do we raise the level of our coaching? How do we raise, rather than complaining that the child or the student is not good enough, how do
Mm-hmm.
we raise the ability to get children to that level? And there's a lot of simple things that we learned, that it wasn't rocket science what these guys were doing. It was just that they had the discipline and they had the
Quality?
confidence that,
Oh,
no, I think it was a confidence in knowing that what we're doing works. Because, once you've said, okay, from our swimming pool, we've produced somebody who's gone to the Olympics every year, since 1980,
that's like a solid
right?
testimonial.
Right. So then what happens is, but they also know at the age of 6, this is all a child should be doing. Like, they're not complicating it. They're not expecting too much. They're not putting too much pressure on the child. They're saying, focus on fundamentals, focus on technique, focus on these 4 things and keep working on these 4 things. I found that we almost had a tendency to make it more complex rather than simplifying it. And so I think it was really useful. And over time, we kind of, I'd say we even outgrew what they were giving us, because what we were able to do, we were able to take what they were giving us, apply it for our Indian students, and then use that knowledge to say, okay, now here's how we need to do it, given our space constraints, given time constraints, given constraints on being able to attend matches. How are we supposed to design a program that will work for an Indian child? Because you can't
Exactly.
just
Like, don't you think foreign children and Indian children are different in terms of their body types, their sort of, even their biomechanics? Won't they be different? Or is that something like a constant base that this model is made up on?
Yeah, I think so, because we were working on grassroots, we were really focusing on technique and fundamental movements, right? Now, you can, as an individual, every individual is different. You forget
Exactly.
about like foreign or Indian. Even within Indian, you'll have some kids who are faster, some kids who can have better stamina, some kids who have stronger
Agility
upper
is
body.
better, etc.
Yeah, whatever. But the idea is that there are certain fundamentals of technique that need to be implemented. So a simple thing like in football, I said, like being able to kick the ball with both your feet,
Mm-hmm.
or being able to move into space, being able to make a pass, or being able to have your head up while receiving a pass and make it. Now, it doesn't matter what your body type is, right? Like, that body type might, so when you get to a really, really professional elite level, when you're in that top 1% of 1%, and you're trying to find a position or you're trying to find a thing, then it starts to say, okay, fine, I'm more suited, my skill set are more suited. But at a younger age, it's actually far more important to have like a variety of experiences. So football, since we ran a football program, you don't want a football player to play one position from the time they're 6 years old. You don't want to say
Obviously.
you're a defender. You
Yes.
want that child to play every position on the field. And maybe at 15, 16, 18, sometimes even at 21 at professional leagues, that they're switching positions. So what you want is you want a variety of experiences. You want to teach a 6-year-old every type of swim stroke. You don't want to say you're
only
likely to
freestyle, you're only butterfly.
yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah, there's no point, right? So the idea is that you teach them everything and then you start to figure out. So we used to describe it as if you are building a house. It's like we were the guys building the foundation of the house, on top of which everything else gets built. And that foundation is the same. You need a foundation, whether it's a 20-story building or a 2-story house. There's some foundation over there, right? And so that's what our focus was on.
And I mean, considering you said that you changed your model to fit the Indian regime. In all honesty, even though your model had done so well, did you face any challenges with, kids dropping out after a certain point due to external difficulties, or were there any norms that came in the way? I mean, apart from COVID being the biggest one yet, were there any other challenges?
To be honest with you, I think there's been a huge mindset change. I think we're probably the last 5 years is maybe the first generation of Indian children whose parents are actively encouraging them to play sport, and doing an after school activity is considered normal, as opposed to, let's say, 15 or 20 years ago, where you kind of had to do it around your studies and things like that. I'd say the biggest challenges today are probably access to infrastructure. Traffic is a huge challenge, because if it takes you 1 hour to get somewhere, how do you transport children? How do you get them? So when fields are so we took our kids, we took them for a tournament in Sweden called the Gothia Cup, which is the world's largest youth football tournament. It has 2,500 teams from across the world, and a lot of future pro athletes go and play over there. And we went to a city called Gothenburg, which is a city with a population of 150,000 people. So 1.5 lakh people is the entire population of the town.
Okay.
And they had 211-a-side grass football fields in that town. 200.
In the town, there were 200.
Yeah, there were 200 in that one town. So they hosted, that one town was able to host 2,500 people, right? And all of Bangalore at the time, so we were there were 2 11-a-side football grounds available on rent in all of Bangalore. And one was a mud ground, and that's what we were training on before we got. And Bangalore is a population of 10 million people. And this is 2015 or 2016, right? This is not.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I'd say infrastructure is probably a bigger challenge than actually desire or interest.
No, it's so true. And I do believe that the mindset is changing, because we can see it with the way sports is even growing in our general lives. The way football is coming up. The way kabaddi had come up so much at one point, something which was born in India. So I definitely agree with you on that. But I mean, coming to the what happened during COVID? Oh, I can hear there's a dog in your room.
Yeah, those are my dogs. Sorry. 1 second.
No problem.
Yeah, so COVID, I think, was obviously, it affected the sports world just like it affected every industry.
Because yours is more contact related. You need to be with your kids. You need them to come for practice. You can't all conduct these programs online.
Yeah, exactly. So I think, recreationally, all sport stopped. Your swimming pools are still closed across the city, apart from competitive programs. Football programs have now reopened. It's a pause, but, there are... the only good thing about COVID, I'd say, is that it's affected the entire world. It's not just, it's not like us Indian kids have lost 9 months. Nobody was playing anywhere for 9 months. And so that's it's something that we're just going to have to accept and roll with. There's nothing you can do about it.
But did you do anything to sort of stay afloat, to keep your kids connected or to stay connected in general?
No, I mean, so we weren't, so at CureFit, we were only running a program for adults. We weren't running a program for kids once I joined CureFit. So that kind of part of my life is more in the past now. So I wouldn't really know what the guys were doing with kids. But I mean, I have a lot of friends who are coaches and know people who are running programs. And honestly, there's nothing. There's no work. There's nothing for them to do. You can provide kids drills or stuff that they can do at home, but when it's off for 6 months or 9 months, you've just got to kind of restart and take it from there. But the one advantage of kids, and especially with at a younger age, at least they get back on that horse really fast. Their ability to learn, their ability to absorb it, the age of 8 or 9 is much faster. Obviously, if you're dealing with professional athletes, it's very different because you've got to keep your body and your mind at a certain level. But with kids, it's it's a little easier from that perspective in terms of getting them back up to speed. You can do that.
No, that's true. I agree with kids, and they're like a sponge at that age, so they can absorb so much during that time. But
Absolutely.
Looking at that, since COVID had taken place, is in 2021, do you have any new plans set? Have you made any changes or tweaks to your program?
So I'm not running the program anymore.
Why did CureFit take over? I think that's something I should ask beforehand.
So CureFit was keen to kind of expand into sport. It was kind of something fundamentally that they wanted to do right from the very beginning. And the organization looks at itself as a health and fitness organization. So it's not. And playing sport is a fantastic way to stay healthy and be fit. So there was a lot of synergy from that perspective, and they had kind of identified football and swimming as two really popular activities that people want to take up. And given the fact that we'd been running a football and swimming program for a while, it felt like a good opportunity to try and do something at a larger scale and see where it could take us. So that's where our team got on board with the CureFit, and then CureFit primarily being a product for adults, we felt that it would make more sense for us to first focus on building out an adult program, and there's tremendous demand for it. And for me, at the end of the day, honestly, something I always wanted to do, or the battle that I wanted to fight, was making sport like culturally acceptable. Right. And what I mean by that is, how someone put it was, you don't study physics because you want to win the Nobel Prize. You study physics because you study physics. Yeah. But somehow playing sport is always like, will you win an Olympic medal? Will you win a World Cup? Will you make it to a team? It's not looked at sport as this is a great way to stay engaged. It's a great way to be healthy. It's a great way to make friends.
Absolutely.
And so for us, it was always irrespective of if you just want to go home and play football with your dad, or you want to play football in your building, or you want to play football in your school, or you want to play for state. Like, we'll help you wherever you want to go on your journey. But that journey doesn't always have to end with what is your career option in this. There's so many things that we learn through our lives that don't have to be career options, right? And so I think part of that, we never saw for most parents, they hadn't even played sport in their lives. We'd have moms regularly call us up saying, how long will it take for my child to learn football? And you had to kind of explain to them that it's a, it's a lifelong process.
It's a long process.
Yeah.
You have those over enthusiastic parents. Yes.
Yeah. Like swimming. Okay. I can, you can kind of say it varies from child to child, but we should, in 2-3 months, we should get you going. But, even working with adults, there's a tremendous amount of desire, I think, today for people who want to play sport recreationally and want to get fitter. And so I thought there was a huge opportunity also in kind of changing the conversation, because if you as a parent are active, are energetic, you're going to make your child do more activities, and you're going to be more supportive of those, decisions, those difficult decisions as and when they come. So, it was an interesting opportunity for us to do it. But, COVID's obviously impacted I'm no longer with the organization, and COVID's obviously impacted CureFit and not just CureFit, but a lot of places in multiple ways.
Even Tal was affected. We didn't have any events for the whole year.
Yeah. Yeah, so you got to just make decisions. But at the end of the day, I think the one good thing about sport is that it you don't need to sell it. It's got enough people are passionate about it and are going to continue to
True.
be passionate about it, that eventually it'll all come back around.
And
So
people want to get back. I mean, this is one place I think even we can relate to from TAL. Like, we want to make sports a culture. Like, we want to provide that platform for people, maybe to not play at an ISL level or an international level, like you said, but
yeah,
to still have that experience of playing the
yeah,
sport they love anytime, anywhere, with friends or with a team, and sort of build that community. At least that's what
yeah.
we stand for. So I
No, I think
completely respect that.
yeah, I know. I think Tal. I think you guys have done a brilliant job in understanding and executing, delivering upon this kind of latent desire for people to not just participate, but to compete, but to build
Yeah,
friendships and have an experience of playing sport that, frankly, not a lot of us got as kids. If you weren't in your school team, you didn't get
you
that,
didn't
and
get a
even if you
chance to
were
play.
and even if you were, there was if you were in a team sport, it was hard. There was selection. There wasn't it
And you
wasn't really
couldn't
well
form a
organized.
team. Some people really
Yeah,
couldn't form a team, but we have the chance of getting in individual players, and they have a chance to form their own team. So that builds
absolutely. Yeah,
another like team
yeah,
altogether. It builds a friendship altogether. You never know what can happen. So
yeah. And I think that the best way to learn sport, to kind of tap into your passion, is to play. We're pretty good at as India is at watching. Everybody watches a lot of EPL, right? But we're not very good at like getting off the couch and like running on a field. And
I
kind of
agree.
take somebody like Tal to kind of get us off our couches and say, hey, we've really organized something for you. Come on and do it. And then once people do it, obviously they have a fantastic experience. And it's just kind of, once you get people there, the sport kind of sells itself, right? Like football
Absolutely.
is such a great sport. You don't need to convince people it's a good sport. You just kind of need to convince them that it's worth their time and energy and effort to get to the football field. But the rest of it is the sport takes care of.
Absolutely. I completely agree. I mean, that's like you said, it's a mindset that's changing everywhere, and that culture is growing, and we can clearly see it. And we at Tala, I'm extremely happy to be a part of this journey. But yeah, and obviously you. But coming to another company, I mean, since CultFit took over games, Gameday art, what about what is that thing? What's your Touche golf? I mean, it's a very interesting sport to sort of bring to India. I mean, I don't think India has yet reached that level of, a nation loved sport like golf. So why do you take up golf? I mean, why do you have such projects where you want to inculcate like coaching, merchandising, events in golf? Why did you have a brand launched? Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Yeah, I think so. So when I worked at Adidas, I was also working in golf with the first kind of golf company. Adidas owned an organization called TaylorMade, and they're the world's largest golf equipment maker. And so I kind of worked for that arm for 4 years. And then there's a group of gentlemen who set up Touche Golf in Bangalore with the idea of really building and growing golf. And um, you know, it's golf is one of those sports where Indians can actually and have competed and continue to compete at a very, very high level. We have Indians playing on the US tour, on the European tour. We've had Indian winners, and it's an individual sport. It requires a fair amount of skill. The physical characteristics, while they do make a difference at the very top, you can still compete because nobody else is kind of touching your golf ball. So you don't require. Also, you don't have any. There's no kind of, I would say, authorities who have to select you or pick you. You decide if you get into a tournament purely based on how well you do in that tournament. You go to the next tournament. So you're actually an independent individual contractor working for yourself,
Oh,
and you can choose where you want to play and when you want to play, provided you get into the field. So you don't, so anybody who's good enough can go to a So even the Indian tour has a qualifying school, but so does Europe, so does US. And if you make the top 25 in that qualifying school, you get to participate. So golf, there's been tremendous potential for Indian athletes in golf. And the challenge obviously is the fact that it needs, I mean, if we were talking about the fact that a 2-acre football field can't be built anywhere, golf requires 100 acres.
Oh my God.
Right. So that's the big challenge. There aren't enough golf courses to go around, and it's a fairly expensive sport. We were trying to figure out a way to kind of make it more accessible, get more people into the game, but it's kind of got a limited range in terms of how popular it can get because of how expensive it is. But in terms
and
of
even
like
the interest factor, do you see a lot of people like coming in out of interest or out of curiosity?
I think a lot of people aspirationally would like to play golf. I just think that they don't know how to go about doing it. They kind of see, acha, there's a golf course, but what do I need to do? How do I get there? What's a golf club? It can be a little intimidating. So most people who pick it up know somebody who's played golf and kind of follow them into it. But from a competition standpoint, Indians have competed at the highest level globally and will continue to do so. We've got some fantastic young Indian talent in golf, and it's only going to get better. So we're going to be a pretty solid golfing nation in the next 5 or 10 years. Yeah.
5 to 10 years. I hope what can I say? There's more exposure towards it because, I mean, we do see a lot of exposure in other sports like kabaddi, football, not cricket. Cricket is like the ultimate, but other small sports coming up.
It's also now an Olympic sport. So now that it's an Olympic sport, it can actually get government funding, and so we should see more money come into it. And it's going to be exciting. It's going to be an exciting time for golf for sure.
That is, and I hope we see a lot of it coming soon. I just want to ask you one last question, which is in your sports career. Yeah. What was the most memorable moment in your time? Whether it was up there or down in terms of your performance, that does not matter. But in terms of one thing that you hold close.
Oh, like me competing, or
you can be competing, or even in your sports career as a professional.
Yeah, I honestly, it sounds a little lame, but what gave me most pride and joy, honestly, was when we were just running our programs, just a day-to-day program, and we'd head out to like play arena, for example, and there'd be 50, 60 kids playing football and a bunch of kids swimming. And, some of our kids did phenomenally well. But for me, it was just the fact that we were doing something that was providing a child an opportunity to play, to have fun, to spend their Saturday, Sunday evenings doing something that, that we kind of didn't get an opportunity to do. Was kind of really rewarding to just help kids play and learn and have fun and have it be like a strong part of their growing up. For me, it was always really, really rewarding to just see the kids play and go for those matches and see them happy when they won and the tears when when they lost, and the emotion, the kind of just purity of wanting to play because you love it. There's no money involved, there's no politics involved. It's just, you're just there for the game. And so for me, it's always watching people play, playing with the coaches. Anytime when you're participating, for me was always a huge high, and really enjoyed that.
No, that's beautiful. And I think many people will resonate with that. I mean, if they are in your place and they see what you've seen, definitely that's something which will keep close to you. And I hope you get to experience more of it also sometime in the future. This 2020.
Yeah, I'm going to keep playing. And to anybody who's watching, please just play. It makes a huge difference to your life.
I think people around I think everyone just needs to get out. I mean, we can see it also in TAL. People are frustrated. They just want to come out and play. And we're so happy to see that. We're so happy to know that, it's playing that was kind of like their vent also to some people. Yeah. So it was really nice. But thank you, Jay. Thank you so much for giving us your time and talking to us about everything in your life. Thank you.
Thanks, Sunaina. Thank you for having me.
Yes, and take care. We shall be in touch.
Thanks.